In this tutorial, we're going to learn the very basics of animation using Blender. We're going to make a ball bounce on top of the standard cube in Blender. For starters, we want to add the ball. Now, by default, everything we add will be added at the location where this red and white circle is. That's the 3D cursor. If I rotate around using the middle mouse button here, you can see that at the moment that's in the middle of the cube, and I want to be able to see the sphere when I've added it. So I'm going to turn off shading by tapping the Z key. Now I'm going to hold down Shift and tap the A key, and I'll get a menu which will let me select Mesh, and then I'm going to select Icosphere. And I'm going to add one more subdivision here, subdivisions 3, so that it looks nice and smooth while we're doing our animation. So now I have a ball inside of a cube. I want the ball to start out at the top of the frame, so I'm going to press the 0 key on the numeric keypad, and I'm going to grab this blue handle and I'm going to drag the ball until it's up near the top of my picture frame when I'm looking through the camera view. And that'll be a good place to start. I want the cube to be down near the bottom, so I'm going to right click, that is click with the right mouse button on the cube. Now it's selected, you see it's drawn in orange. And now I can grab the blue arrow and drag it down. Now I could drag it down any amount I wanted, but I want it to drag down exactly one grid click. So I'm going to hold the control key down, and now when I pull it down, see how it jumps? It's snapping to grid. So now, if I tap the Z key again, I can see that the grid lines here are just at the top of this cube. The cube comes right down to the bottom of the frame of my camera view, and the ball is at the top. So this is a good place for us to start. To get things to move in Blender, you kind of have to tell Blender where you want the objects to be and when you want them to be there. Right now we're at frame 1. That shows up here down at the bottom of the window in the frame indicator there. And I also get an indication here that we're in frame 1 here. I'm currently manipulating the cube because it's selected, and so it says cube here. I'm going to right click on the sphere, and now you see it says Icosphere here, and the Icosphere is drawn with the orange line outline, showing me that it's selected. So now I want to tell Blender that at frame 1 the sphere is here. So with my cursor in the 3D window, I'm going to tap the I key, and I'm going to tell it to remember the location. So I'm going to click on location, and now Blender knows that the sphere is at this location at frame 1. I want to cause the ball to go down and bounce on the cube, so I'm going to move forward in time to frame 21. If I hold down the Shift key and press the up arrow key, I move forward in time by 10 frames at a time. So by pressing the up arrow key while holding Shift twice, I go to frame 21, which is a good place to be. So now that I'm at frame 21, I'm going to grab the blue arrow handle and drag that ball down until it looks like it's touching the cube. Now it's somewhat hard to do from the camera view, so I'm going to go to the front view by pressing the number 1 key on the numeric keypad. And as you can see, I'm down a little far. I'm going to drag the ball back up until it looks like it's kind of just touching the cube. That's a good place for it to be. Now I'm going to press the 0 key on the numeric keypad to go back to the camera view, because that's where I want to be for the rest of my animation. So this is where I want the ball to be at frame 21. So once again, my cursor's in the 3D window. I tap the I key, select location, click. Now Blender knows that the ball is at this location at frame 21. I'm going to hold down the Shift key and tap up arrow twice to get to frame 41, and drag this blue arrow handle with the left mouse button up until the ball is back at the top of my frame. Once more, remember the location for this new time. Click on location. Now I've got the positions for the ball. I need to tell Blender how long the video is, so down here where it says start and end, I'm going to click in the end one and I'm going to type 41 to tell Blender that the video is exactly 41 frames long. Now I can preview the motion by holding down the Alt key and tapping the A key. And Blender will do the animation just as it'll show up in the final movie. So I get to preview the animation. When I'm done looking at that, I can type escape and it will stop. Now we want to be able to save this out as an actual movie that we can play on our computer. To do that, we'll have to create all of the frames of the video. It's a process called rendering, and I'm going to have to put them in a movie file. So I'm going to expand this area here. I'm going to make sure that the camera tab is the one selected. It gives me these buttons, render, animation, and audio. And I'm going to scroll down here, and where it says output, I'm going to say I want to put this on the desktop. So I'm going to click this button right here on the end, and I'm going to click desktop, and in the file name area I'm going to type movie and accept. Now Blender has my desktop movie as the location for the video that it creates. Now by default, Blender will create a movie that's just a set of still pictures, which is not what I want in this case. So I'm going to click where it says PNG, and I'm going to select H.264. This is going to create a movie file that I can play using my Windows Media Player or QuickTime or something like that. So now that I've selected where to put the movie and what movie format to record it in, I'm going to scroll back to the top, and I'm going to click the button called Animation. And what Blender is going to do is it's going to render or compute what the scene looks like at every step of the movie and save them all out into the movie file that we can play later when we're just in Windows or just in Mac OS, whatever platform you're on, and not have to be in Blender to be able to see this. Now you can tell what frame it's rendering at the moment because it tells you in the upper left corner here we're on frame 31, 32, 33, 34, getting very close to done. And at that point, I have a complete video which I can play with Windows Media Player or QuickTime or something like that. And that's what it takes to make an animation in Blender.